Well, hello. Woo! Made it. A little late tonight. I'm sorry about that. Just, just trying to get everything organized and looking good. You know how that goes. But, it's been an amazing week. Just really a good time. Just a lot of good things happening. And I'm going to start by talking about the last show. But first, I just want to say hi to the people I'm seeing in so far. Hey, Chris, Jan, great to see you. So howdy to y'all. And it's just been a great week. The last show, the Reflections of Faire, which was our clip show, which if you listened to what I said last week here at Fair Life, the clip show is just essentially like in any TV show. They have, in a season, they have an episode normally that just is like flashbacks or things that you just kind of look back at the earlier season. It started back in the late 30s, early 40s with serials in the movies, but it went over to TV and has been a thing ever since. Some people don't like clip shows, and I think some shows just use them as a cop-out to not have to do much work. Believe me, I can tell you after last week, it was a lot more work. Because you're not dealing with two entertainers with several songs each. You're dealing with, let's see, this one was like 10 or 11 different entertainers with different groups with one song each, but the information and everything. Yeah, it was actually, in some ways, a lot more work. I was surprised by that. I wasn't quite sure how that would go. But I think the response was great. The show it seemed to be a big hit, and the flow was really good. A lot of fun. And that's always how you do it. I think Lee's right on that. She just said that she loves clip shows when they are done correctly, and I think that's exactly the point. A lot of times they're not done correctly, so that was something her and I really talked with a lot last week about how to do this clip show right. We did devote a lot of time. There's a lot of pre-production into this show, we kind of developed a rhythm with the shows before that and said, okay, this is how we do them. And this was new. So it took a lot more to get it going. So hey, Kristen. Hey, Janine. And glad you enjoyed it. Glad y'all enjoyed the show. Oh yeah, she wasn't surprised, but Lee wasn't surprised. I try not to have too many preconceived ideas with online. I just do the best I can and just see how it goes. But it was a fun show. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and put that up. A reflection of Faire. I thought that was a brilliant name, and I'm going to give Lee total credit this time, only this time, that she came up with that. So definitely a good name. But no, it was just a really good time, and I did my best to try to put it in an order that was. I didn't really go like a CD exactly. It was like putting together a CD in a way. You're right, Lee, but it was almost like putting together a show, I think, more than a CD. Because with a CD, there's this common tendency to put the best stuff first, and that's a mistake. Like, you don't do that if you're doing a live show at Faire, for instance. You wouldn't do that. You'd put a solid song first, definitely, but you've got to have ups and downs, and you start strong and you end strong, and you just make it all work. And that's more how I approached it. But I do agree it was a bit like putting together a CD, because it's normally at a Faire show it's you have 25 minutes, and that was a lot more music than a standard 25-minute show. It felt like a CD. But yeah. And I do not steal your ideas all the time. Sometimes I steal other people's ideas. So, we've got to be clear on that. It's not just you. It's not always about you, Lee. I'm just going to say it. Oh, well. But no, I think that from what I've heard, I've talked to a few people and got feedback from them, and everybody just said that the flow worked really well. So that was very encouraging. So I think we did a good job, Lee. I think it was a good show. So again, thanks all of you for being a part of it and checking it out, and supporting the performers. And of course, that great cause that Bandcamp was supporting, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, which that's, I mean, it was such a good feeling to do that. Yeah, and that Lee makes a good point. She said that we actually started with the best of each artist, which made it a bit more difficult to decide in order. Honestly, it was even before that. It was tough to decide what was their best, because there were certainly plenty of groups there where it was like you almost couldn't go wrong with what you chose. So we really usually had to use other criteria besides what was their best work. I think it was more like what was maybe the most Faire-like, or sometimes it was even, what would flow best with the other songs we've picked so far. I mean, it was a tough decision. A lot of stuff went into it, and normally it was like, okay, we can do this one, or this one, and we can't go wrong with either of those. And that was what we settled on after debate before that. So it was an interesting process. But yeah, you're right. Once we got that down to one song with each, figuring out the order, I just pretended that we were all like one band, and okay, these songs, what order would this band do a show? And each person takes the front of the band as they went. That's kind of how my mind processed it. But yeah. Yeah, and Kristen is reiterating that by quoting Mitch Hedberg. You got to start the show strong and end the show strong. You can't be like pancakes, all exciting at first, but in the end, yes. I won't say the curse word. See, I try not to do that. I'm sick of them, and that's that's sort of the goal. I always look at it as a sine curve. I mean, yeah, obviously sometimes I pay attention to math. But yeah, I just look at it as you start solid, and then you just kind of go up to a peak where, wow, okay, you start good, and then you go more, and then you kind of go down and go mellow and relaxed and lovely, and then you kind of go back up to another peak, and, that's kind of how I've always approached it. It's a safe way. It's not the only way. There are plenty of strategies for doing a show and doing a CD. I've done it different ways, but I thought that would probably be the safest way where it would definitely work. Yeah, she's going to throw that in there, that our first business argument was over whether we should use a 14th century cantiga or a 13th century ballad. And I found a way to make it work anyway, because I put one of them in the intro music. And then I put the other song in for their show, so that went great. Yeah. And that you got to find loopholes wherever you can. So, but no, I mean, sometimes when you had those choices, and there were some really good songs. I generally try to do instrumental music during the intro and outro bits. But, it depends on the performers, because I also try to highlight the performers that are in there, and they don't always do instrumentals. So I try to just work with it. I figure you either do something beautiful and relaxing, or you do something fast and lively. But either way, the last song you hear in the intro needs to go well with the first song in the show. That's always been the goal. It's not just a dartboard format of let's see what works. A lot of thought goes into it. A lot. You'd be surprised. You would be really surprised. Yeah, Lee and I will just be on the phone while we're working on other stuff and just thinking out loud and talking and doing strategy day after day sometimes. And early on, I mean, in this early process of our of Life's Affair, it has helped immensely, because it really has helped us solidify what we want to do and how we want to do it, and helped keep us on the same page, which I think has been a huge problem for other groups trying to do stuff like this, because it can be hard, especially when you have more than two people. I mean, 5, 10, 20, whatever. When you have large groups of people trying to do something, a lot of stuff can slip through the cracks. So communication is key. So I think we've done pretty well with that, Lee. So thank you for that. It's been good. Yeah, definitely. So anyway, thanks for watching. It was a great show, a reflection of Faire, and I'm really happy about it. And okay, now I know you're thinking about some of you probably saw the podcast or at least heard the podcast from last week, and I thought it was a really good podcast. And we did it as a group thing with Dan and Melissa, Shakespeare and Melissa from Chase Treasure, and instead of doing them one at a time, and it was a fun experience, and it turned into a really fun recording and a fun show. But because of that, we're doing a two-parter. So we ended up doing the next one is over on Patreon now. Our Patreon page, you can listen to that now, and tomorrow we'll do a general release of it. But yeah, it's that continues with that same interview. So if you haven't listened to the one before, go check out the one before you jump into this. I mean, they work on their own, but it's a lot more entertaining, definitely. Oh, excellent. Yes, it was Jan. She said it was fun today and loved the answers to her questions. She's heard it today because she's on our Patreon and a supporter there. And it's interesting because that was the first time I'd really ask those standard questions. I ask everybody who comes on, if you had a friend who was a patron who was going to a Ren Fair for the first time, what advice would you give them? And then I ask if you had a friend who was a performer who was going to perform at a Ren Fair for the first time, what advice would you give them? And you always get interesting answers. It's cool because it really tells as much about the person I'm asking as it does about good advice, because everybody looks at Faire in different ways, and I think that's just wonderful. So yeah, I think that was a really good. It was a really good format this past time because it was different when I'm dealing with a group. I ask them, and they both kind of play off each other and answer the question together. It was a different feel, and I like that because you want to keep mixing it up as much as you can. You don't want to have the same thing every time, so we try to do that. We try to do that with every show. But yes, it was a no-brainer, and Lee says it was a no-brainer, and we'd love to support the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and Fair Artists. And she's right. That's why we moved the show last week to Friday. So this week it'll be on Thursday again, so don't worry. We're not going to suddenly change our format entirely. But yeah, I mean, it was worth it to go to that Friday. And thanks for sticking around and checking it out. And Merrick says, Ren Fair advice, people are probably going to touch you or your stuff or both. Yes. And that is why during the whole COVID thing, everybody's worried about Ren Fairs and how they're going to open, because that is part of Ren Fair. You got to be really careful with that. So we're going to see how that goes in the fall. It's a big question mark. Very big question mark. But yeah, check out the podcast. Lee put up the links there. And yeah, it is really good. And yeah, Jan said comfortable shoes, and that is by far the most common response we've had to those questions. Not just for patrons coming into the fair, but performers too, because performers, they often run around more than patrons sometimes, depending on what they do. So you really need comfortable shoes there too. And yeah, water, and more water, also a very popular one. But no, I think down the road, we're probably going to look at putting these together in either on a page or an ebook or a book or a video. I mean, something. I mean, maybe all of the above, and do that with advice for your first time at Fair, because we're getting really good advice here. And I'm interviewing people who are pioneers at Ren Fair out of the box thinking. I mean, they really are. Yes, Jeremy, dress like a plague zombie. No one will touch you. That is actually pretty good advice. But what if everybody dresses as plague zombies and then all the plague zombies touch each other? So that's a question. I don't know. That could be a thing. So yes. Yeah, and Lee's saying that she used to clock around 20 miles per day and walking. I don't think I ever hit 20. Honestly, I think I stopped too much for being on stage here and there. But I think I got as high as like 9 normally, 9 miles, which is not too uncommon. especially at Sherwood, because you go up the hill and you go down the hill and up the hill and down the hill and up the. So when you say 9 miles, it's like it's you're on the treadmill and it's like changing the level all the time. You're cross country kind of. It's not easy. Yes, and Janine's saying that some of her friends bought a Plague Doctor mask for Halloween. And yeah, that is going to be a popular. That's going to be a popular character for Halloween. It's going to be a popular character for conventions, I think, for a while, and Ren fairs. It's going to be a big one. We'll see. We'll see. Gosh, think about all the movies that are going to be a reaction to this, that are going to be like, because you think about all of the movies that were a reaction to like the Cold War, and atomic bombs, and political intrigue and all of this stuff over the last 50, 60 years. And there is going to be an interesting response. I don't know. I mean, it might be sort of another zombie type film surge like we had a few decades ago, or it could be something completely different. I don't know. It'll be interesting. There might be movies based all about issues with solitude. I don't know. The themes are going to be interesting. Very interesting. Them. Oh, yes, the classic ant film. Wow, yes. The Day the Earth Stood Still, also a classic. Now, I assume, Kristen, you're referring to the original and not the one with Keanu Reeves, because if you're referring to the one with Keanu Reeves, we might have to have a talk. Yes, I mean, we pretend that one doesn't exist. Just saying. Just saying. But anyway, yeah, it's going to definitely be some political thrillers. I mean, all the craziness that's been going on, no matter what side you're on, there's going to be a response socially and politically, and I think entertainment-wise, most assuredly. It's interesting. Okay, just making sure, Kristen. She said, of course, that that was the original. Thank you. Yes. Didn't see the Keanu one. I might actually suggest that you do see the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, Kristen, mainly because it makes you appreciate the older one so much more. Yeah, it's like you want to just watch the older one again after seeing that one, just to remind yourself how good that one really was. Yeah, Andromeda Strain, another. Oh yeah, definitely. And that was so ahead of its time anyway. Honestly, I think that movie suffered greatly because of the timing. I think if it had been, I think if it had been later, it would have maybe done better. Earlier, probably not. But later, it was probably a good decade ahead of its time. So it didn't really have. It's had a lasting impact, but it wasn't a huge blockbuster in the movies or anything, and it should have been, because that was a pretty amazing film at the time. But yeah. And now Kristen is parodying The Day the Earth Stood Still, Klaatu Verada Nikto, in the way Army of Darkness did. Yes. Yeah, always good. But yeah, anyway, podcast, great. I think check that out, and we'll have the second. Wow, part 2 will come out tomorrow for general release, so check that out. And now I'm going to have also part 2 of the video release will be coming out on Patreon in a few days. So check that out too. If you are not already on Patreon, you can join. And yeah, the video podcast. And here, I'm even going to show you a preview again, but this time you can actually hear me talk about it. Because I'm not. Last week I showed you the preview, and it was me. You could hear the audio in the video preview as well as me talking, and that was my mistake. So now I'm showing it, and it's just me talking. It is just me talking, right? Yeah. Okay. But yeah. But I think that is a fun That's fun. You kind of get to see the video of it, and the audio is the exact same. That it make we generally don't make any edits. At least so far, we really haven't had to. It might, especially with how long that one is, it might end up being a situation where we might have an extended version in the video podcast as opposed to the audio. I don't know. It depends. These are starting to get new, so I'm not sure. Oh yeah, Kristen says her brain still hurts from that. Yeah, hearing two of me, yeah, that's that's a few people's nightmares, I think, most definitely. One or two, yes. Yes, the mysterious woman behind the comments is how Lee is describing herself. Yeah, that might be true. That might be true. Oh yeah, and I noticed on the YouTube chat, Andrew is saying that, and different Andrew, great name by the way, that Faire has always been his workout, especially on the weekends. Babysit his nephew, go up the hill, down the hill, up the hill, down the... Yeah, and I totally agree with that, Andrew, about the... yeah, it is a workout. So, yeah, that's always the tough part. When I'm not at Faire, I actually have to watch myself, and or I'll gain weight in the off season. You got to be careful. I realized pretty quickly that's where I was getting all my exercise. Wow. Okay. Well, check out the video podcast. I think it is evolving, and it's a great show, and I think you're gonna like it. Really fun. But yeah, only on our Patreon though. So something to be aware of. So yeah, I don't know if all of you noticed what the topic of conversation was this week, but it's what is Faire, and we kind of already started a little bit of that, didn't we? Talking about Faire a little bit, and already. But I'll start it going and just get it going and talk about it a little bit. Faire, because Lee and I really have discussed this a lot over the last several months, especially because, we're trying to make Life's Affair as much as a feeling of Faire as we possibly can online. I mean, you can't do the same thing, but we're doing it as close as we can. So we do talk about it a lot, and Faire can mean so many different things. For me, Faire can be a huge sense of community, and that's one of the things we've tried. And Kristen just typed it in right when I said it. So yeah, I mean, you're hearing this 15 seconds later, but it actually came out at the same time, for what it's worth, Kristen. So yeah, I did not read that from you, so we're just on the same page. So definitely community. That's a big thing. But it's different things to different people. I mean, it can be history. It can be music. It can be fun and frolic. It can be a place to be yourself and have nobody judge you. It can be a place to hang out with your friends and drink all day and just forget about real life for a while. It can be it can be a chance to get exercise and walk up the hill and down the hill. Spend time with your family. Sometimes it's about the food. I know people that go and they want to drink some mead, and they want to eat a particular dish that they just don't see anywhere else. Sometimes they love the ambiance and everything, but the shops, they'll go every year just to see what's new, and they have certain shops that they just frequent. Now, that's a lot of different things, but it's rarely just one of those for an individual. It's usually a combination. When I first started, for me, it was all about history and music. I went to learn as much as I could and to just pay attention to everything musical at Faire. I know, big shock. But that was when I was young, and I was just obsessing over that. But I gradually, especially after I started working Faire, it was all about community. And you keep going, you'd go to a fair and then you'd leave and go to a different one, and you wouldn't see a lot of the people at that fair until you went back next year. So it was sort of like, it's kind of like going on a different string of summer camps where you often only see the people there at that camp, and then you won't see them again until next year at camp. But it's just like camp after camp after camp when you're working there. But when you're not, I mean, you go there and you try to just go there, and it is kind of seasonal. It is kind of like a summer camp in a way. It's a lot of fun. Oh, and Merrick says the only place his sense of humor goes over well. Yeah, the dressing up and you're not alone. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. Oh yeah, Kristen mentions the birds, the falconry show. And, you know, everybody sort of has their in. You know, they're kind of this brought me there and made me say, I love this place. And, you know, it could have been several things for Kristen, but birds kind of got to her first, I guess. And, you know, it's sort of like a lot of things in life. That first thing means so much more because it was first. Well, that's generally why movie sequels suck so much, because, you know, the first one's always going to be better, even if the second one is good too, because it was first. It paved the way to greatness, and that's kind of it. Yeah, community theater. Yeah. It does kind of have that sort of, we're putting on an event together, that camaraderie of doing an event together, Janine. So yeah, I see what you mean about it being like community theater. Because yeah, even as long as you're meeting friends there, going with friends, it's like you're going on an adventure together, because it is. Faire is such a huge adventure. Just seeing all of these things, and some of them you might have seen before previous years, but there's always changes, new things, new experiences. And the best fairs are ones where you could go one day and have a great time and see all this cool stuff, and you could go another day the same year and take the same path around the fair and have a completely different experience. That's what a fair should do, I think. And Jan, of course, mentioning Celtic Stone, that they went to TRF and that's when they were sold. Yeah, I didn't know TRF was your first fair, Jan. That's interesting. Yeah, that TRF was mine too. I think I first went to TRF back in 1990, and that was my first year doing a fair when I was a kid, and it was so. Yeah, it really had an influence on me. Well, obviously. It just kind of hit me what I was saying. Yeah, that's... Really? Did it have an influence on you? I couldn't tell. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what fair means to me. And it seems like, the first year of Flushies. Yeah, that was interesting, because, when I saw those at TRF, I was kind of like, oh, all fairs have this. This is great. Yeah, they didn't. Later on, I learned that was not the case. But it goes that way. Always interesting. But yeah, fair is just an experience that kind of, it's so important to you. Once you feel it, you just don't ever want to lose it. And I guess here with all the fair closings and all of that this year, I think that above most things is why Lee and I started Life's a Fair, so that we could still have a bit of fair and share it with all of you. And we're going to keep doing it, and have a lot more shows to show you, and things to thrill you, and awe-inspiring wonders to marvel at. So so that is, I guess, my thinking about what fair is. If you have any other thoughts or things you'd like to share, please put them in the chat. Just from Jay Rinker, that's why scientists like field work. Enough exercise, they don't have to watch what they eat during field season. And Andrew said all of the above. Yes, that's a good point. That is a good point. Although I will say that you have to be really careful at fair, because, when you work there, I guess when you're a patron, you're just walking, you can do that. But when you work there, you got to eat well, because, I mean, it's work. You've got to be at 100%. You can't, if you're going down to 80 or 75% on Sunday, you're not doing your job. So you actually have to eat pretty well when you're working it. So I don't. I mean, early on when I first started doing Faire, oh yeah, I was downing Dr. Peppers left and right. I'm not gonna lie, but not anymore. Not anymore. No, no. I learned my lesson. Mm-mm. Whoa, Tasha's. Oh, Jeremy. Okay. Well, we do have a new show on Thursday, and I don't know if you've seen the event yet, the ad for the show, but it is going to be another clip show essentially, and it is a further reflection of Faire. Say that 3 times fast. But it is when we first did the clip show, I mean, we talked about doing a good clip show and wanting to put that together. But because of the whole Bandcamp charity thing, we moved the day and we concentrated on groups that definitely had Bandcamp accounts, and that's what we were going with because that's what we wanted to promote that day. But we still had plenty of groups that either weren't on Bandcamp or were in the process of getting on Bandcamp. So, yeah, we really wanted to show the other groups as well. And there's so many good groups. In fact, I don't think we never put a bad group on our channel. We've every show's been great. I've been happy with it. So yeah, I think this we wanted to show off everybody. So because the first reflection of Faire was so popular and did so well, we thought, well, let's continue. Let's do another one and make sure everybody's represented. And so we are going to do Clip Show Part 2. I think you're going to like it because it's going to be kind of like the last one, but just with completely different groups and a lot of fun. So definitely come and check that out. It should be a blast. And yes, and once again, I'm going to give her Lee credit for just calling it a further reflection of Faire, because yes, she's come a long way with alliteration. I think so. I think she has. And now Kristen says she demands a third show called Further Reflection of Faire. I don't know. I would probably want to go something a little different, like a farthing further reflection of Faire, something like that. We'll have to come up with something. Yeah, maybe. But I think all the groups so far are going to be covered. From what I can tell, it looks like we're still going to try to keep the show under an hour. We're going to be pushing it, but I think we can cover everybody we've had so far, and that's the goal. Yeah, Jeremy says there are no bad groups, maybe misunderstood, but not bad. And I generally think that's true. I always say that the difference between music and noise is if somebody likes it. If anybody likes it, it's music. If nobody likes it, it's noise. At least likes it artistically, I guess I should say. There's a difference between liking a sound and thinking it's music, but likes it artistically. And that to me is the difference. Maybe an oversimplification, but I try. So yeah, I think you're gonna like it. So definitely check that out, and yeah, definitely see you on Thursday because that is going to be a good show. It will be really good. Now, okay. I noticed that nobody's mentioned my shirt. Usually, I always get at least some mention of my shirt. Did I miss it? Did I miss a scroll or something? Maybe not. I assume somebody at least knows what it means. No pressure. So, yes. For all of you math nerds out there. No, nobody's getting it? It's tough with a 15-second delay, so I have to kind of keep that in mind and go with it. But symbolic logic. Well, Jim did, of course, Jim did. Although he's probably correcting it and saying, no, actually, I would probably represent that in this way, knowing Jim. Actually, this is the type of nerd shirt where you have for people who use both sides of the brain. Yes, to be or not to be. Correct. Very good. Very good. So it is math and Shakespeare. Yes, 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 yes. But I wore it for a particular reason, because a new show is coming up on us. We're past pre-production, and we're going into production of a new show that I'm going to be doing with Dan, Shakespeare Approves, and we're going to have the show, and it is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be reviewing Shakespeare representation or Shakespeare-inspired movies. So think of us like a kind of a Siskel and Ebert kind of thing, with the two of us talking about classic movies that have at least something to do with Shakespeare. Now, the interesting thing about this is there are a ridiculous number of films that are at least partly based on Shakespeare. I mean, the ubiquity of Shakespeare in the influence on art cannot be overstated. I think that is a fair statement. So, I mean, early on, there are, of course, some obvious ones. I mean, there's the obvious Shakespeare adaptations. Forbidden Planet. Yes, 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 that is on my list. Don't worry, Kevin. Yes, I love that one. So yeah, it's Shakespeare reviewing movies about Shakespeare. Very true. Yes, there are some really good ones and really bad ones, and I think it is important. And yes, Andrew did get my to be or not to be. That was great. Yeah, I do. I'm glad that so many of you got this. The Lion King is another good example, Kristen. Exactly, and that is one. I mean, there's a ridiculous list. I mean, I could probably go with an old TV show episode, and it's Shakespearean. I mean, pick a TV show, and there's probably a Shakespeare episode in there. Yeah, there's that one. Lee's saying Baz Luhrmann. Yeah, Romeo and Juliet. We'll do it at some point. Yeah, I mean, I get why people liked it. I was not as much of a fan, but we'll save that for the review. Yes, yes. And yeah, Ren. Oh, that's a good one, Jeremy. Ren, yes. There are so many films. I mean, not just, and Jeremy's right, not just English-speaking films. I mean, all over. It is, there are going to be interesting options. So I think, and Janine's saying that her brother won a copy of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows by writing a Harry Potter parody of Hamlet called The Prince of Hogwarts. I like it. I like it. That is good. That is good. So yeah, I'm really happy with this show. I love the concept, and pre-production lasted a while, but we're into production now, and it is going great. I don't really want to. I don't think I should actually tell you what movies we're starting with, because that would be spoiling. But don't worry. Before it's released, we're going to. I'm sure we'll preview. We'll tell you what movies are going to be in the episode when it comes out. So I'm pretty sure we'll do that. Yeah. Hey, Joey. Yeah, that's a good way to get my attention. Bold font. Always works. So yeah, and of course, I assume all of you know Shakespeare, the Shakespeare from Shakespeare Coffee Break, and he does a lot of different things online, and I've known him from other fairs. But a great guy and an amazing Shakespeare. So much fun. So yeah, premiere party. Lee's saying we'll be doing a premiere party for the first episode, and yeah, we talked a little bit about that. I think we will. It'll be interesting. We're looking at a lot of different possibilities on that. So yeah, I mean, we'll release it, and we'll all just kind of hang out and watch. And if that's let me know. Yeah, let me know what you think of this. Let me know what you think about this idea. You're giving me suggestions, which are great, but I mean, what do you think of the idea? Please, I'm really curious because I haven't really shopped this around much. We had this idea, and we really wanted to figure it out before. Yeah, I mean, we didn't want to make it public too much yet. So I think we've kind of mentioned it a couple of times in very rough terms before now, but we haven't really gone into specifics. So yeah, I mean, and if you have any ideas for it, please, I'd be interested as well. I think it's going to be fun. I put it out as a premiere. Everybody hangs out, and we get to watch the episode and see the reviews, and then yeah, discuss our ideas and what we think of the movies. With enough warning about what movie is going to be represented, you have the opportunity to watch it beforehand and give your own opinion, which I'd love to hear. So many good movies out there, and and that's the thing about Shakespeare. I mean, you always talk about reading the book instead of the movie. Well, Shakespeare, they were plays, and it's so much better to watch Shakespeare on stage than to read. I'm just going to say that. Now, for analysis and understanding, sometimes it's easier to read so you can kind of not miss everything. But yeah, I was a spoiled child in many ways. Don't say it, Lee. I know you're thinking it. My parents took myself and my sister to the Houston Shakespeare Festival every summer for years. And they would do 2 different Shakespeare plays at the Miller Outdoor Theater. And there in the middle of near downtown in Herman Park. And it was, and tickets were free. I mean, you could go and just watch. So, I mean, why not? So, I mean, I've seen so many Shakespeare plays. I'm not even sure how many. I mean, much more than 10. I don't know exactly. I'd have to go and figure it out. But I mean, how often do you get a chance to see like Coriolanus performed or something like that? It's really, so yeah, I've been very lucky in that regard. So I can honestly say it is so much better to watch it performed than to read. Yeah, and Kristen's saying that it's always bothered her that we read the plays in high school. It was meant to be a play, and that's like people reading my comic strips and not looking at the comics book itself. That is a very good analogy, Kristen. Yeah, totally. I think that's a good point, because I think for a book versus in a visual medium, the like a comic or a movie or a play, the writing is totally different. I mean, maybe not totally, but very different. It's a different approach, and I think you lose a lot. And of course, with plays, the actors add so much to the play. I mean, and it varies depending on the actors. Some performances, of course, take it a certain way, and others take it a completely different way. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of plays and the beauty of Shakespeare. It's so adaptable, which is why you see it everywhere. Oh, Shakespeare. And Janine's saying that they did Junior Great Books version of The Tempest in elementary school as Reader's Theater, then saw a live performance of Hamlet, both of which led to lifelong interest in Shakespeare and theater in general. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did act in a Shakespeare play in high school. I was Shylock in The Merchant of Venice. That was my play history. But I did have to read several plays in high school, most assuredly. And I do have my collected works of William Shakespeare book, kindly provided as a gift by my sister. I believe for Christmas a long time ago. So I do have every play, and I have read through many of them. And I think Jeremy has an issue with things being misunderstood, because he keeps using that. Maybe misunderstood actors, but not bad. And yeah, Janine says she feels that way about Chekhov. Reading is not appealing, but watching is. That's a very yeah. Okay, I could see that. That's yeah, totally. Oh yes, yes. Jan says that she's a old English major and spent an entire semester with him. And when I was younger, I was always really the emphasis on one writer. Always, I didn't understand it as a kid. I was always like, okay, we're reading, this one book by this other author and this one book by this author, and then we're reading how many by Shakespeare? And it always, at the time, it seemed like it was just way overkill. Like, why are we concentrating on Shakespeare so much? Yeah, he's popular and everybody knows the name, but why? And as I've grown up and okay, as I've started to grow up, I'll just save Lee from the joke. I've realized that it's just Shakespeare is such a part of our society, such a part of our language. Yeah, yeah. The Tempest. Okay, Kevin's saying that there are a couple of his roommates in a group in UCLA that did The Tempest as the characters from Gilligan's Island. Wow. 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 Yeah, okay. 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 The more I think about that, the more, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Hmm. Now I'm going to be looking through episodes of Gilligan's Island to throw in as a little side joke discussion with Shakespeare for one of the episodes. Try to see the most the most Tempest-like episode. Have to think about that. At least says I'm apparently anticipating her, so she needs new material. No, I just naturally assume now that anything I say can be used against me. Because, yeah, I have a gift for that. So I just look for it now. But no, that sounds great. Gilligan's Island. That is really funny. Oh, wow. But yeah, and so this is what we have in the pipeline. One of them, anyway. One new show. We've got... This is going to be the first out, I think, in the short term. We've got several other shows in pre-production going on right now. So, yeah, I can't really talk about them yet. I want to, but I can't. There's still a lot of question marks, and it might be just a little early for that. Maybe next week I can go a little more into that. But yeah, there are definitely some really cool things going on. Some good shows and good content. I'm really happy about it because yeah, it's just getting better. I can't even, the meetings we are having these days, not just with us but with other people on video chat and everything. I mean, blow your mind. It's crazy. It's so many cool things happening. Yeah, that we're really moving forward, and I'll just keep watching because it's going to be some cool stuff. I think you're going to like it. About 4. Lee says she thinks there's about 4 shows. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, we have more ideas than that, but to say that that they're close to moving, I'd say that's a good number. That sounds about right. And that's the beauty. We have so many ideas. Picking the first one was actually a challenge, and a lot of it was just because it was almost happenstance, because of course I'm talking about Shakespeare, so I use the word happenstance. That I was just talking with Dan, and the idea just sort of came up. It was just one of those, like, oh my gosh, yeah, we need to do this, and it just became a priority because of the friendship and knowing him, and we ended up. And I'm sure some of you remember I was on his coffee talk, coffee break a few times, and and on his show another. And so I mean, it was working together kind of brought that out a little bit, so that helped. And of course you've already seen the whole gaming one that we did, Game of Choices with Paulo. So that was an early test, I guess. So I guess that was sort of the first show that we really sort of outside the norm show that we put out as a test. So yeah, I think that one was kind of first, but yeah, this is the this is going to be the full repetitive show that we've already planned out, and it's there. So I think we're in good shape with that. So yeah. So yeah, it has been a really, like I said, a really good week. Amazing week. Yeah, Kristen, she did such a good job on Game of Choices. So yes, she was awesome. But yeah, it's just such a great week. Yeah, I'm a happy bard. Because yeah, and I almost feel guilty saying that, because right now this is a crazy time, and there's so many problems and so many issues and so many what's going to happen, and I don't know. I guess I've just sort of jumped in and tried to figure out what I could do in this situation, and I'm personally believe a lot of it was luck, but really, certainly a good part of it was just having good friends who got involved in this with me, and all of you jumping in and supporting and being a part of this, and it has been a great time, and it's only going to get better. Yeah, that is a good question, Lee. If there's any topic that y'all think we should cover with a show, let us know. Because yeah, we're in crazy pre-production mode now. We've got let's just say lots of spreadsheet columns now. A little crazy, all over the place. So a lot of it, what's going to come out next is chiefly on going to be dependent upon a few external factors that we can't control, and some of it is just how easy it's going to be or how much we really like it. So yeah, Jan has already, but Jan has sent a few suggestions. But yeah, if you say something that just really hits us and we're kind of like, oh my God, I love that, we need to do that, it may jump the queue. We can jump, we can move stuff around. We already have plenty of times. This is such an, I don't know, it's weird because we've been working so crazily for 3 months, and it's really, it feels like we've already accomplished so much, but then with everything that's been going on the last week or two, it feels like it's almost like the beginning. It feels like it's just about to go even wild and do a lot more. So, wow. Yeah, it's a strange time that feels like a huge transition's about to happen, but in a positive way. God, I wish I could just, I really want to tell you all more, but I gotta keep my mouth shut on a few things. Silly NDAs. Oh well, anyway. But yeah, please, if you have any suggestions or just like a show you would love to see, like a weekly or monthly show or whatever, just that you'd like to see streamed, that dealing with Faire, of course, in some way, we would be interested. Because, yeah, for us, it's all about Faire. That's what it comes down to. As long as it has to do with Faire, we're happy. So yeah, I think... yeah. Lee's threatening me. Must be a Monday. Anyway. Well, it's 7:59 Central Time for me, so I try to keep these under an hour, and I'm pushing it already. So it's probably time to call it quits there. But thanks for joining me tonight. Always a pleasure, always fun. Great chatting with you, and seeing, great sharing with you what is coming up, because it's really exciting. So have a great time. a great week. See you on Thursday for our further reflections of Faire. And look for our podcast and jump on that and check it out in general release tomorrow or on Patreon tonight. And and join Patreon and look for our video version so that you can have that visual aspect too. So thanks again, and I will see you soon.